don't dislike it. I just don't like it as much as a red. Tactical pocket reload, because I'm high speed like that.
Alright, welcome back guys. Today we're going to be talking about this light right here. Now if you'll notice on here, it says caution hot surfaces, but you'll also notice there's something underneath there. And underneath there it says Streamlight TLR1-HL. Now this is obviously not a real Streamlight. This is a knockoff off eBay. This one was I think around $40 or so. Sorry if I feel a little weird, or I sound weird, I'm a little bit sick, so just gonna have to deal with that. So this is a knockoff TLR1, as you can tell. It has a pretty good hotspot like an actual TLR1, and it also, well, assuming I can get it to work, there we go. It also has a strobe feature if you enjoy giving yourself seizures or, you know, having rave parties. So I bought this because I was curious. A lot of the things I do on this channel is to kind of see what's, you know, some of the cheaper options you can kind of get away with if you can't afford the nicest, you know, stuff out there. There's a lot of good companies out there that I think are better than stuff like this, but for those of you who insist on buying something, you know, cheap or off Amazon or whatever, my goal is to try to find, you know, the best of those things and to see which of those things will actually hold up well enough. So again, I was just curious to see, because I bought a Surefire knockoff off eBay, and it was, you know, it was decent. It wasn't bad, you know, for the price. Again, it was about 40 bucks also. It wasn't a bad light. Now that said, this is a significantly nicer light than the Surefire knockoff. It was like the X300 Turbo knockoff. So the reasons why is because the fit and finish on this thing are actually really well made. You would not expect this to be a $40 flashlight. You know, if you've ever used any of the flashlights off Amazon that are, you know, $20 to $30, you know how cheap they are and they basically break immediately. This is not one of those lights. This is actually fairly durable. Is it as durable as the real thing? Time will tell. But so far I've had probably about 500 rounds through this gun with this light on there, and I haven't had any issues. Well, I had one issue, but I'll talk about that here in a second. So in case you want to see the differences, if you notice on here, there is, it almost looks like a, what would you call it, like a fiberglass almost body on the actual Streamlight. So I imagine it's a little bit tougher versus on this one. And I'll take it off the gun here in a second so you can kind of see. But versus this one is more just kind of regular anodized aluminum. I'm sure it's an inferior material. The screw itself, if you can see it, is kind of almost that like blued steel, versus this is like a parkerized or anodized or, you know, something on there. So this is a more durable finish than this was. Will this rust? Maybe. I don't know. Size wise, they are identical. I don't notice a difference between the two. The gaskets on here are similar. On the Goon Beam, if you're familiar with that, the gaskets were like a silicone. This one's a rubberized material, just like the actual TLR1 is. And in case you're wanting to see what the bezels look like, there's the bezels. They are similar, but not the same. And I'll unscrew these so you can kind of see what's on the inside so you can see the difference. So if you're wanting a short review and you want to just leave now, short answer is, if you're only wanting to spend $40 on a light, this is the one I would get. The output on here, if you're familiar, it is not, even though it says an HL, and I left a sticker on the other side so I knew which one was which. And obviously, you know, it makes it easier on the camera to point out which one's which. But the lumen output, it says it's 1,000 lumens, which is, you know, supposed to be on par with this one. It's close, so if you can see that one versus this one, I'll show you what these look like outside. This one is a little bit wider of a pattern. It still has a pretty decent hotspot, or at least, you know, compared to this. Now, it's nothing compared to like the Surefire Turbo, but, you know, compared to an actual Streamlight TLR1-HL, the hotspot is actually pretty good. The only downside to it is I would say it's closer to 800 lumens, not 1,000 lumens. So if you've ever had one of the earlier TLR1-HLs, I think they were 800 lumens or so. So if you've ever used one of those, it's basically on par with that. This one's a little bit brighter, but not really enough to notice unless you're comparing them side by side. It's still perfectly adequate, still perfectly bright. And I think the hotspot is good enough for what most people are going to want for a defensive handgun light. The fit and finish on here, well, the fit on the gun is fine. It locks up. There's absolutely no wiggle. I had it come loose one time because I didn't tighten it enough, but then once I tightened it the rest of the way, I didn't realize it felt tight, but I didn't quite tighten it all the way. Once I did that, it was fine. So let me take it off the gun so you can kind of see what it looks like on here. I can show you kind of all the parts and take it apart so you can kind of see the differences between it and a real one. So the reason I had this holster out here, it does fit in TLR1-HL holsters. I haven't had one that didn't fit in yet, so for what it's worth. This is the box it comes in. It's not labeled, well, it is labeled as a TLR1, but I think it says like toy, toy version on the side. So in the box, it comes with just your standard little rail mount adapters for different rails, like Picatinny rail, 1913, you know, the Glock rails, all that stuff. Has a key, an Allen key in there for tightening things, and then it also comes with this little cool tool right here, which is actually pretty neat. It's for tightening this screw. I actually wish the Streamlights came with that. Maybe they do now, but mine never did. So that's kind of cool, actually. I've been using this for the actual Streamlight, taking it on and off. Really useful. Now that I've shown you this box, it's going to go in the trash because I never keep these Chinese boxes. Pro tip, if anything you buy comes in one of these boxes, it's 100% made in China. So, for the record. Alright, so up close. Now the only issue I had with these, and I'll show you video, I'll probably insert it here, is I had flickering under recoil with this one, but also with the Streamlight. The only pistol light I had that did not flicker under recoil was the Surefire X300 Turbo. There was no flickering with it whatsoever. Now granted, I had to go into slow motion on the camera in order to actually see the flickering, so would you notice it with the naked eye? Probably not, but you know, it is there. But I was shocked to actually see the Streamlight had the exact same problem, so take that for what it's worth.
And last but not least, I have this is not a Streamlight, this is a eBay Chinese clone of the Streamlight. You can see they had a sticker on just like this on the other side. I peeled it off, but I left one sticker on there so there was no confusion as to which one was which. Hopefully you can see that. It does in fact work. I'd say it's around 800 lumens, not quite 1,000, which is what they advertise in the packaging that you get. But online it's advertised as 1,000. So just assume it's about as bright as the older Streamlight TLR1-HLs, the 800 lumen ones whenever they first came out. Then now they're 1,000 lumens, but this one's basically like the first ones that came out. It's close, and the Candela is close, but it's not quite as good. All right, so let's see if it actually holds up the recoil and to see if it flickers. I'm going to be testing the TLR1-HL. This is the one made by Streamlight, and as you can tell by the holster wear, I've had this one for a little while. We're going to see if this one, under slow-mo, will flicker when it's on.
I'm less and less of a Streamlight fan the more and more I use them, because I have two of their micro and macro stream little handheld flashlights, and they flicker just all the time, and it's super obnoxious. You know, you just kind of smack at the thing and then it stops, but it's super annoying. This one doesn't have that problem, but it does flicker under recoil, which means they need a stronger spring in here. Anyway, so as you can tell, I kind of went over it before. Size, exactly the same. Fit and finish on both of them, honestly, are fine. I don't really notice much of a difference. On this one, the real one, it has a nice positive, and it has a programmable strobe that you can turn off, which I did because I absolutely hate strobe. This one is not programmable. I tried, and I can't turn off the strobe, so you're stuck with the strobe on this. And now, granted, I don't use momentary. I generally just turn the light on, and that's why I don't like strobe, because whenever you accidentally do it, you just basically blind yourself. I pretty much always use constant on, not momentary. I know a big fight in the comments down below. With rifles, I will use momentary, but with pistols, I generally don't. So if you can see on here, this right here, the little latch, kind of barely goes over the edge on the fake one. On the real one, it kind of gives you a little bit of a lip to hold on to or grab onto, so that's nice. There is no vampiric drain, so you can leave the batteries in here, and at least on my example, the batteries haven't drained, and I've had this thing for at least 3 or 4 months now. So I haven't had any problems with that. I don't like how they put serial numbers and everything on there. That's just, I don't know, disingenuous to me. I don't like that, but you know, here's the difference is obviously if yours doesn't look like a fiberglass type material, then it's a fake. Obviously, and the fit and finish. Or if it comes with stickers, I'm still gonna leave that on there just because. How it mounts on the rail, identical. It looks a little bit different on this, you know, versus this one, but that's cosmetics. They work perfectly fine. Let me show you the inside of the bezel. So if you want to know how to take these apart, they just unscrew. Somebody will let me. There it goes. So it looks like it would unscrew at the silver part. It actually doesn't. It unscrews down here. They're also kind of a pain in the butt to get off. So it unscrews. Here, lens. Sorry, it would help if I get this on the camera. So there's your lens. Here's your little lens assembly, or I don't know what you would call it. It will pop out of there. There it goes. All right, so here's that. It's just a solid piece of plastic. It's basically just a cone, if you can see that. And it just helps focus the light. Pretty smart. And then it has kind of like a dead space where that's actually drilled out. That's a hole basically in the middle. So that just kind of makes the light focus to the center. And then there's the inside. So let me compare that to this one. Assuming I can get the thing off. There it goes. This thing was incredibly tight the first time I did this. I don't know, maybe I'm ruining something, but I don't really care. I don't think, does this one have a gasket? It does have a gasket, yes. So there is a rubber gasket on both of them, and the thread is lubricated with something, so for what that's worth. So here's your fake one. Has a little spacer. Obviously a little bit more complex in there, but I mean, basically it's the same thing. And if you look in here, very similar. They more or less just copied it. It's slightly different, but not by much. It's more or less the same thing. So that's how they're able to get the good performance on this one, on the knockoff compared to the Streamlight. So I thought that was interesting. I wasn't sure, you know, what kind of magic that was in there, but it's literally just a piece of plastic that they made into a cone. So I thought that was kind of cool. Obviously this is cheaper. Well, is it as durable? I guarantee it's not, but unless you're, you know, using your stuff to, you know, you're going full Navy SEAL mode or whatever, I don't think that would really matter. So again, they're both set up with the Glock rail adapters on here. I will say the fit and finish on this little lever, not as good. This little pin right here that holds everything in place is, you know, just like long and I don't know, unnecessarily long, but not really a problem. The lockup on the tabs, you can hear those. They're a little bit gritty, but for the most part, they have good solid lockup. Now, why would I buy this? If you have a spare gun laying around, you know, that you just need a light for, it's probably fine. For a home defense gun, probably be fine. Conceal carry, iffy. I personally wouldn't trust it, you know, for that, just because Chinese stuff breaks randomly. Granted, I've had, you know, good lights fail too, so it is what it is. But for a duty light, no, absolutely, I would not use this, just because I honestly don't even think I would use this anymore, just because of the problems I've had with Streamlight in the past. I'm a Surefire fanboy now. But for those of you who can't afford, you know, Surefires, or I mean, shoot, even this thing, this is a pretty good option. Again, I showed you the light output outside, and I liked how it worked.
Alright, I don't know how well this is going to show up, or how well you'll be able to hear me. AC unit's running. But here is a actual Streamlight TLR1. You can see the shed out there. And again, the shed's roughly, you know, 20, 25 yards. The trees are roughly 35-ish yards. Maybe a little bit less. But you can kind of see it has a pretty decent hotspot for, you know, for what it is. And it's 1,000 lumens. It lights up everything pretty well. I don't have any complaints. Now here is the eBay knockoff. And as you can see, it does not have quite as good of a hotspot indoors. It's hard to tell the difference between the two, because this one still does a pretty good job of illuminating things. And you can tell it still has a decent spill. The trees, from what I can tell, it still illuminates, but it's a slightly different color and it's not as focused. I would also say this one's probably, well, I know for sure it's about 200 lumens less, because it's marketed as 800 lumens versus the TLR1 is 1,000. So now let's compare them side by side. Turn them both on. You can hear fireworks. So the one on the right is a TLR1-HL. This one is the eBay knockoff. So here is the shed. here is the shed. Definitely get more candela with this one. It's definitely more focused. But again, for an eBay knockoff, it's pretty decent. I would say this one is probably pretty close when it comes to just like performance to the older TLR1-HLs, the 800 lumen ones. Again, the bezel could be a little bit more focused, could have more candela, but overall, it's a very decent clone, and I wouldn't feel outgunned with the performance on this one.
But if you have any questions, put them down in the comment section below. I enjoy making videos like this. I've been meaning to make this one for a while. I just haven't had a chance. But if you like this kind of content, give us a like, subscribe to the channel. There is an Instagram page that Rhett keeps up with. I appreciate y'all watching. Have a good one.